Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
It is Friday here on the Sports IQ with Larry Smith. Glad you're here with us. We've got another great show coming up here as we get into the weekend. Eric Hansen joining us, Notre Dame, a big game against Pitt. Look, in terms of the Irish, they could get into this. They don't have any ranked teams left, so they got to finish up strong and really probably put up some style points. I don't know that you leave a two-loss Notre Dame team out of the CFP. I don't think that happens, but let's not risk it, right? So get a big win this weekend. We'll talk with Eric Hansen here in a couple of minutes. And then a bit later, also Micah Warren talking a little NFL news. We're the halfway point right now, getting into the second half of the season. What are we looking at? We've already discussed some of the big stories here. Obviously, a surprise in the AFC. Denver, Indianapolis, so those teams having great success. New England, and some of the reasons why behind that. We'll talk more about that with Micah here a bit later on in the show. Let's get to some headlines right now for you. To no one's surprise, the National League MVP going to Shohei Ohtani as he joins Barry Bonds as the only players in Major League Baseball history to win the award 4 times. Ohtani has won 3 straight, and being in the prime of his career, there's no doubt really that he won't break that tie with Bonds at some point in the not too distant future. What he does, producer Tony and I were talking before we came on the show. If you get a chance in the next 5-6 years to see a Dodger game and Ohtani is in the mix, he's not injured or something, you got to go do it, because this is a player that is not just a once a decade or once a generation, but really kind of a once in a century kind of player, which Shohei Ohtani is doing. It's just amazing. And back-to-back World Series titles with the Dodgers to be. In the American League, the award going to Yankee superstar Aaron Judge. 2nd in a row for Judge in the American League. 3rd overall. He beat out Seattle Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh, who just had a phenomenal year, setting all kinds of records. Judge getting 17 first-place votes to 13 for Raleigh. College basketball now. Big game from Braden Smith, helping propel number 2 Purdue to a win at 8th-ranked Alabama down in Tuscaloosa last night. Smith, 21 of his game-high 29 points coming in the second half. Trey Kaufman-Wren adding 19 points and 15 rebounds for the Boilermakers. They're now 3-0, and they notched the program's first road win against a top 10 non-conference opponent since winning at Louisville in 1982. How amazing is that? I'm not sure that our editor, Josh Ewing, I don't think he was even born in 82. He's just a baby. He's a baby of the group of us. I love needling Josh every chance I get. Anyway, Purdue dominated on the glass, by the way. Out-rebounded the Crimson Tide 52-28. Alabama, 2-1, kept it close, hitting 16 of 44 from three-point range, but the Tide go down, their first loss of the season. Other games, Jackson Kohler, 17 points and a career-high 18 rebounds. Jeremy Fears Jr. scoring a career-high 15 points, 9 assists as well. Number 17, Michigan State over San Jose State, 79-60. On the women's side, All-American Lauren Betts, 20 points, 10 rebounds, lead number 3 UCLA to the 78-60 win over 11th-ranked North Carolina. This is in the WBCA Challenge, the Bruins' second win over a ranked team this week. The 6'7" Betts also had 7 assists. Teammate Kiki Rice overcame an 0-for-3 first half to finish with 15 points, 6 of 12 shooting for her to go with 10 rebounds. On the ice as well, Martin Nikas had 2 goals and 2 assists. The Avalanche beating Buffalo 6-3 for their 5th straight win. Gavin Brindley, a goal and an assist. Arturi Lehkonen, Brock Nelson, and Gabriel Landeskog also scoring for the Avalanche. They extend their point streak to 9 games, 7-0-2 in that run. Mackenzie Blackwood with 19 saves as the Avalanche, by the way, leading the NHL with 29 points so far this season. All right, producer Tony is with our first guest.
Well, thanks so much, Larry. And yeah, one of the key ball games coming up on this weekend is Notre Dame traveling to play Pitt. Battle of ranked teams. The Irish have won 7 in a row coming into this contest after losing their first 2 ball games of the season in very tight ball games, I might add. And we are joined now by Eric Hansen. He is senior writer for blueandgold.com, joined us many times before. Eric, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us once again to talk about this ball game.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Let's dive right in. And this is a game, some people say, oh, Notre Dame's playing Pitt, that's nothing. Well, Pitt's a really good football team, and Pitt has a defense that doesn't like to be run upon. So that could present some challenges for the Notre Dame offense. Would you agree?
I would agree. I mean, they're third in the country in rush defense. The best rush defense Notre Dame's faced this year is Miami, who's seventh, and they had some trouble running the ball on them. But this is a different Notre Dame team as well. It is a team that is better on the offensive line than it was in August, September. It's also a team with a quarterback who's blossomed since August, September, and has kind of the pick your poison mentality now. So if teams do want to load the box, Notre Dame has been able to either unload the box or make them pay through the air. And I think that's one of the real key elements is how that whole drama plays out.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun part to watch of this ball game is can the Notre Dame wide receivers make them pay for loading the puck? Can CJ Carr do it with his arm? Can they make the catches? I'm kind of intrigued to see what kind of day Malachi Fields is going to have in this defense. He's become kind of the explosive threat for Notre Dame, that downfield, over the top, take the top off the defense guy.
Right. And Malachi Fields and Pitt are familiar with each other from their days in the ACC. We know in conference membership now, you don't face teams every year, but you do face them some usually during your career. Malachi Fields is really, I feel like, is in a good place with his confidence. When he came in, some of the coaching staff shared with me, they thought he had a Michael Floyd skill set. Michael Floyd's Notre Dame's all-time leading receiver. But they said, can we get Michael Floyd drive out of him, Michael Floyd production? You're starting to see hints of that. And actually, Michael Floyd was at the game last Saturday against Navy, and I had a chance to talk to him. And he goes, yeah, I can see that comparison. So that's a good sign. And then the other thing is Notre Dame isn't just Malachi Fields. Jordan Faison is having a great year at the outside receiver. Slot receiver Will Pauling is doing a really good job. They've got some tight ends. Eli Reardon leads that group. And then they throw to the running backs a lot. Jeremiah Love has had some big plays in the passing game. And what the difference between CJ Carr in the early season and what the version you're seeing is now is that he's pretty good at recognizing fronts and blitzes and checking out of bad plays into good plays or great plays. And that's something that's very unusual for a redshirt freshman to be able to do at the line of scrimmage.
Now we know the injury report for every team is getting a little bit longer. Is there any news with Jaden Greathouse being able to play in this ball game at all? He's been out for the last few weeks. Is there any chance that he comes back?
No, he's out for this game. He usually starts Mondays as questionable and then goes to doubtful when they get to Thursday or out. Will they just say rule him out? And he hasn't played in weeks. I'm not sure if we'll see him in the regular season. He'd like to get back for that and get warmed up for whatever Notre Dame's postseason looks like and have some momentum going into that. They've done pretty good without him. I think where they miss him the most is red zone opportunities. He and Will Pauling are such different slot receivers. Will Pauling's kind of the guy that you think of as a slot, a 5'11-ish, 190, super fast guy with great moves. Jaden Greathouse has all that in a bigger body, maybe not as fast, but he's so physical. And when he gets against certain nickel backs, he's a real mismatch because of the way he can use his physicality in the red zone.
Now, Pitt's passing defense is not as strong as their rush defense.
Right.
They're kind of middle of the pack in the passing game. Is there something there that, if you talk to any of the Notre Dame coaches, there's something there they think they can exploit on this defense?
I think they feel like they can do that against anybody right now. I mean, CJ Carr is third in the country in passing efficiency. The only two guys ahead of him are Julian Sand from Ohio State and Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. So he's an elite company there. Again, they didn't have those kind of numbers early. They do now. And so they feel like, pick your poison. We're going to get up to the line of scrimmage and see what looks you're giving us. And that's where Pitt has to be really clever in disguising some of their blitzes and their pressures because they'll sell out. I mean, they don't care. They feel like they'll be successful enough at that to put you behind the chains and get you in the third and longs. And then their pass defense isn't so soft. on third and long as it is maybe on third and short or some of the other downs. So, and Pitt's getting healthy. They've had Kyle Lewis was out for maybe a game or two for them. He was an All-America linebacker last year. Rasheem Biles, I think, missed 3 games, and they were hopeful to get him back. So they'll get Pitt's best shot on defense, whether it's pass defense or run defense.
What would you say has been the biggest factor to getting this offensive line to gel the way it has the last few weeks? Is it just getting comfortable with each other, knowing their position and their roles?
Well, some of it is being able to plug new guys in because they've lost a couple of players here recently. Joe Otting is the new center. He replaced Ashton Craig in the USC game, so he's played 3 games now. Sullivan Absher had to replace Billy Schrauth. Now, they'll get Billy Schrauth back at some point. They're not getting him back Saturday. They've been their best offensive lineman this year at left guard. But Sullivan Absher has played really well. And it's the ability for those 2 new guys to adapt. And then they've just gotten better tackle play. I did a feature on Anthony Knapp this week where Anthony, was talking about how embarrassed he was against Miami and he had to go back to the drawing board. Actually, Riley Leonard was the guy, the former quarterback, that helped him get his head space right so that he could make a surge. But early in the year, they were really struggling at tackle. They're getting much better tackle play now.
Looking at the postseason for a minute with this Notre Dame team, I mean, when you lose your first 2, you're kind of in win every week mode
right
anyway. So every week has kind of been a make or break elimination game for Notre Dame to this point. We're still in that mode, would you say?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no wiggle room for them, and they were in that same situation last year. So at least it's familiar to them. But I think the one thing that it helps is every team gets their attention. They're not overlooking anybody because they know if they have their B game, they're going home. They're playing in the Pop-Tarts Bowl or some other kind of breakfast snack or cereal. So they don't want to do that. They want to be in the playoff.
When you look at Coach Freeman and the job that he's done at Notre Dame, obviously, he took them to the national championship game last year. He's just been an amazing coach. Are any of these rumors that have been flying around, we hear the same thing about a lot of different teams, right? There's all of these jobs open in college football. Now you're getting jobs opening up in the NFL. And his name is being mentioned here, there, everywhere. Has any of that been a distraction, do you think, as you watch this team daily?
I don't think so, just because of how authentic Marcus is and that his players know where they stand with him. Brian Kelly played it, closer to the vest with that kind of stuff. And he was happy when his agent was out there kind of spreading his name. Marcus doesn't do that. And so, there's been people that are Notre Dame fans on our message board at blueandgold.com that have said, well, why doesn't he just issue a statement after each of these rumors? Seriously, that's all he'd ever do. Because you know how it works. There's a job opening. Your assignment editor says, we need a hot board. You say, you know what? Marcus Freeman's doing a pretty good job. And sometimes there is legitimate interest in those parties. But there's not a Marcus Freeman's end, not at this stage of his career. Maybe 5 years from now, it'll be different. But I mean, he said how we talked about it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. He said how much it was when Brian Kelly got fired, how grateful he is for the situation he has, how much he loves it at Notre Dame. I don't know how many more times he can say it, but I do think it is a good thing when people think highly of your coach, highly enough to have him on those lists. That means you have a really good coach.
Let's kind of shift over to the defensive side of the ball. A couple of injuries in the middle of the line. Pitt's running game, pretty good, but not elite like Notre Dame's running game is. They can throw the ball as well. They're kind of a balanced offensive team. What kind of challenge do you think Pitt presents for the Notre Dame defense?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for them is Mason Heinschel is a magic man, the freshman quarterback. Since he replaced Eli Holstein, they've won 5 games in a row. Now, they haven't faced many good defenses, but still he's putting up monster numbers. He turns the ball over some. They don't protect him at all. They're one of the worst teams in protecting either quarterback. and yet and they don't have that great of a running game, and yet they find some way to score. The sixth, they're the number 6 scoring team in the country. So I think his magic is kind of interesting, and why they're good in their pass game is they have lots of good receivers. They have 3 really good wide receivers. Any one of them can hurt you if you try to shut one down with Leonard Moore. There's 2 more that you have to deal with. Desmond Reed, if he's healthy, he's a really good receiver out of the backfield. So they don't throw much to their tight end, but those 3 receivers and that balance in their receiving core is what makes them so dangerous. And that Mason Heinchel is smart enough to find them as a true freshman and good enough to find them.
Is this a game you think that Notre Dame wants to play in a phone booth, or is this something where Notre Dame would rather play in space? Are they going to be more comfortable if this is a shootout? Does that play into Notre Dame's favor, or if it's low scoring, does that play into Notre Dame's favor?
I think they're comfortable with either gear at this point in the season. I think they maybe would like to have it a little bit more high scoring and have more possessions. The Boston College game, Boston College was able to really limit the possessions on both sides of the ball, shorten that game. And then if you have a turnover, it's pretty critical. And that game was kind of a white knuckler for a while. And Boston College might be the worst team on Notre Dame's schedule. They've handled everybody else pretty easily. I picked this kind of a middle of the pack scoring game. I don't think it's high scoring. I don't think it's low scoring. Notre Dame's defense is vastly improved since early in the season. And it's going to be really interesting how they match up with Pitt. I think the fact that Pitt does not have a prolific running game is going to be a problem for Pitt.
Now, the games like this, it always seems Notre Dame plays them. There's always one. It's a lot tighter than we really want it to be. Us Notre Dame fans want it to be. And we have one of those. You remember maybe going back 10, 12 years ago, the game against Stanford that came down to a 1-score game. Do you see any of that happening on Saturday?
In the games that Pitt has lost, they've lost the turnover battle. And in the Louisville game, they lost it badly. If Pitt is ahead in that turnover battle, I could see this being a 4th quarter game where there was some drama in the 4th quarter. If Notre Dame is even or ahead on turnovers, I think Notre Dame covers actually in this game. I think it's 11.5. I've got them covering in this game. I think they're going to be ready. And especially some of the comments from Pat Narduzzi, I think, have fired them up pretty good. They're not taking Pitt for granted. So, but I have a lot of respect for Pitt. I mean, they have something ahead of them. They have Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami. And if they can pull that sweep, they're in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, this is for both teams. Obviously, this is a playoff elimination game. Neither team at this point can afford to lose one more and expect to make that college football playoff.
Well, Pitt has a back door, and if they lose to Notre Dame and then beat Georgia Tech and Miami, they could get into the ACC championship game and get in the back door that way. But you're right. I mean, it's going to be more difficult for them, especially if it's not a close game with them. If it's a close loss, I mean, they won't have a at-large way to get in, but they could get in as the ACC champ. There's 5 ACC teams with 1 loss each, and with Louisville losing last week, that knocks one of the teams that knocks the team that has the tiebreaker over them out of it.
Well, it's going to be an interesting ball game. Looking forward to see it. Noon kickoff, which is a little different for Notre Dame. Noon kickoff there in Pittsburgh. Eric Hansen, thank you so much. Eric is the senior writer for blueandgoldillustrated.com. Really appreciate you taking the time and helping break this game down for us.
Thanks for having me on.
We will be right back on the Sports IQ after a quick timeout.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Thursday Night Football, the Patriots over the Jets 27-14. Travion Henderson with 3 touchdowns. As New England has now won 8 in a row, they're now 9-2. And remember, they won only 4 games each of the past 2 seasons. What a job Mike Vrabel has done in his first year coming in. Drake May, another outstanding game, more than 200 yards passing, had a touchdown pass as well. They're just looking fantastic right now. It's amazing what they've done. Dre getting some MVP chatter. And again, New England, this is their longest win streak since 2019. Also, the last time that they started 3-0 within the AFC East division. Tom Brady, the quarterback for them back in 2019. Sunday, some games we're keeping our eye on. A couple of 6-3 teams. A showdown in Buffalo, the Bucs and the Bills. Chicago also at 6-3 at Minnesota, and a key divisional matchup there. The Chargers are 7-3 on the road at Jacksonville. The Jaguars coming in 5-4, trying to get a win to stay again in the AFC playoff picture. Big matchup in LA. The Rams hosting Seattle. The Seahawks are surprising 7-2, matching the Rams record right now. And again, they'll be playing at SoFi. Denver 8-2, and again, maybe the story in the NFL here in the first part of the season. They're at home against Kansas City. The Chiefs right now 5-4. We talked about the slow start. Come on strong. Look, they're the Chiefs. They know how to win, and this is a key matchup for them. They are not going to want another loss to fall 3 games behind the AFC West leading Broncos. So a big matchup for them in Denver late Sunday afternoon. Sunday night has the defending champion Eagles at 7-2, hosting Detroit. The Lions come in at 6-3. 14 charges in a multi-million-dollar sports betting ring involving some college athletes. 2 former Rutgers wrestlers were implicated in that, were named, and so we'll follow that story for you. Steph Curry and Under Armour, that partnership is ending. They are parting ways. The NBA superstar signed with the shoe company back in 2013 and elevated their brand to just unprecedented levels. He has since started the Curry brand. Now, Under Armour will release his shoe line in 2026, but he is in sneaker free agency after that. College basketball news. Number 7 BYU taking on 3rd-ranked UConn in Boston Saturday night, and the Cougars will do so without starter Kennard Davis Jr., who was charged with DUI after an accident Thursday night there in Provo, Utah. It's a homecoming game for A.J. DeBonsa, the Boston native, almost a lock to be a lottery pick, could be the number 1 pick in next June's NBA draft. A couple of college games we're watching for. Friday night, it is 15th-ranked UCLA playing in L.A., against number 5 Arizona. And Sunday, a couple of 3-0 teams go at it. Number 1 Houston taking on 22nd-ranked Auburn. Well, some sad news from college basketball. Former Cleveland State coach Kevin Mackey has died. ESPN reporting that it was due to an apparent heart attack. The Vikings stole the show back in 1986 when, as a 14th seed, they shocked 3-seed Indiana in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. The Hoosiers, of course, led by Hall of Fame coach Bob Knight and All-American Steve Alford. The names of that Cleveland State team: Mouse McFadden, Clinton Ramsey, whose brother played for Ohio State, Clinton Smith. The Vikings advanced to the Sweet 16 in that NCAA tournament back in 1986. A few years later, Mackey's career was derailed by a crack cocaine addiction. There was a sting, and he was actually caught on camera, run on local news there. He got himself sober, was sober for 35 years at the time of his passing, but later became an NBA scout. As one said, he was somebody who just had a knack for seeing talent. Kevin Mackey passing away in his home in Massachusetts, proud father and grandfather at the age of 80. Cleveland State, what a name. Forever in NCAA tournament annals, and Mackey, the architect of that amazing run. Okay, stay with us right here. We've got much more to come. Some more NFL talk up next here on the Sports IQ.
Paramedic, firefighter, police officer. Different job titles, one common goal: to keep communities safe. They all risk their lives every day responding to emergencies. Just because they accept their jobs can be hazardous doesn't mean they have to be. Is your workplace safe for everyone? Learn more about the Put Yourself in Our Boots campaign at ourboots.ca. This message brought to you by the John Petropoulos Memorial Fund.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
We continue here on the show. Producer Tony is with our next guest.
Well, Larry, thanks so much. And of course, we're just past the halfway point of the NFL season, coming down into that second half. Things start getting tighter. Races getting tighter. Everybody's starting to look at that playoff picture. We are lucky enough to be joined by Micah Warren. He is an NFL writer for Heavy.com. Micah, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love this stuff.
So looking at the NFL coming down as we get ready, let's start with the Eagles. Defending Super Bowl champs. It seems like something offensively is amiss. There just don't seem to quite be as strong offensively this year as they were last year. What's not clicking there in Philadelphia offensively?
First of all, you think? I mean, I follow the Eagles closer than any other team. And if you remember, they had this issue last year. There was that big hole after they came out of the first 4 games, 2-2, they hit the bye. And it was a lot of, what are you guys doing? They could always run Saquon last year, but they can't this year. Something's not the same. I don't really want to hear about how great this offensive line is, right? They haven't been the same. So they're not running Saquon because they could always rely on that. And one of the things that I'm noticing they're missing this year is last year, they would have that 7 minutes. You got a 7-point lead with 7 minutes left and you have the ball. You might not see it again. Because they can drain the clock. They can't do that this year. It used to be 4 minutes was their clock killing time. They don't really have that this year. Obviously, we have the A.J. Brown issues, which he's a ticking time bomb. I know, but he hasn't exploded yet. But he does this. But he's got a point. Now, my point is, you should raise these issues. You should do this. But can you do it through the proper channels? Go complain to Jalen personally. Maybe he has. I would complain to Kevin Patullo, the offensive coordinator, who I think is just bad. He's just bad. And I don't know how you have these kind of weapons. And you see it. You just said it. What's wrong with this offense? Why are you putting up? They'll just go dark for an entire half of a game. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's funny because my friends and I will complain to each other. I don't know what it is this year. 3rd and double digits, run it. That makes no sense to me. And I thought, what do the crappy teams do? Because you're too good you're putting the white flag out because it's 3rd and 10. What world do you live in? Come on. Mm-hmm. So it's tough to point your finger at any one thing. Jalen's been playing fine. They're not turning the ball over. Could they cut down on penalties? Sure. I guess every team would probably say that. But for whatever reason, I mean, some of the route trees just like, really? Not one of these guys is open. It's a very frustrating thing. And the defense is not as good as it was last year. It's a very young defense, which is great, but it's not going to bail you out the way it did last year. Even though it did this week. I mean, they gave up 7 to Green Bay in Lambeau. I'll take that. I think most people would.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're not seeing on that defense is, last year they were able to just ruin teams' rhythm, right? They could get after the quarterback and you would have to just change your game plan mid first quarter. Like, okay, these 3 things aren't working. We got to find something else. And it's kind of tough to do that on the fly. They don't seem to be able to get that same pressure. Is it because they lost some people to free agency? Because, with the cap, these eras, you can't keep an entire team together for more than a couple season run. You have to wind up with replacements, right?
Yeah. So when they lost Milton Williams and Josh Sweat after the Super Bowl, we both watched enough football to know when you win a Super Bowl or you make it that far, your team is getting rated. Everyone sees it. I mean, I remember Malik Jackson had a big Super Bowl against the Panthers for the Broncos and got a huge contract from the Jaguars. If he didn't have that game in the Super Bowl, he's not getting that kind of money. I mean, we saw the Raiders will take anybody that has a good Super Bowl. Larry Brown, Desmond Howard, whatever. We'll make him a superstar wide receiver. People do it. And the Eagles, like you said, in the cap era, they didn't have the money to pay Milton Williams. They didn't have the money to pay Josh Sweat. So you have to do those things. That was fine. That was acceptable losses. That's going to happen. Where Howie Roseman has done a very good job as he's drafted really well. If you look at his last 4 drafts, he's nailed the first 3 picks. Now, that's not going to last forever. I don't care how much you deify the guy. I don't care what you say. That's statistically is not going to continue. But he's been able to do that. So you can't keep Milton and Josh Sweat when you're going to have to pay Carter. Jalen Carter is going to get paid. You might have to pay Jordan Davis, who slimmed down this year. You might have to pay him. You're going to have to pay Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, probably Nolan Smith. They're going to want market contracts, especially if the team is good and you're on the national television, national stage all the time. These guys are going to get taken from you. So yes, there was that. But to your point, that pass rush, I think Jalex Hunt doubled his sack total on Monday night by getting one. So for defensive ends, here's a good one. Their leading defensive end sack guy this year retired. When Zadarius Smith retired, he had 1.5 sacks. That's now granted in 2022 when they went to the Super Bowl, they had 5 guys in double-digit sacks. That is insanity. That doesn't happen. Well, what's the opposite of that? Because that's what they have now.
Right. Well, and in this modern NFL, you have to put pressure on the quarterback.
Yes.
You cannot let quarterbacks sit there and play, especially with the way, the game is being called, from a defensive back standpoint. And there's so many good receivers now in the game. You have to put pressure on a quarterback. If a quarterback gets 4.5 seconds to make a throw, they're going to complete 85% of their passes, right?
100%, which you bring up a good point, because apparently not when you're on the Philadelphia Eagles. I have seen many plays this year where Jalen is eating his lunch back there, and no one's getting open. The Giants receivers could get open with this much time to break free. What routes are they running? Can somebody get me the all 22? I want to see what's happening, that he's back there for that much time. Not every down, obviously, but enough that you're like, really? You threw that one away? There's nobody open? Are you not seeing the field? So your question about their offense, people that follow them like I do very closely, we're just as baffled as everyone else. I mean, ask the local media, ask anybody. Everyone's like, I know Patullo's not helping. How about that?
Yeah, that's probably a key thing. Let's branch out and talk a little bit about the league as a whole. Let's start in the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really seeing this year in the NFC and the AFC a changing of the guard. We got some of these younger quarterbacks, and Larry and I talked about this earlier in the week. But there seems to be, when you get a quarterback, when you get that franchise quarterback, you've got about, especially if you draft him, you got about a 5-6 year window to make good on maybe getting to a Super Bowl. After that, when you have to start paying them, really paying them, you have to then make cuts elsewhere on your roster to make up for the fact that your quarterback is now taking up 35% of the salary cap with one player. And
when does that change, Tony? Honestly, isn't that then have to be a tipping point at some point to where $50 million for Brock Purdy is probably not a great investment, especially when Mac Jones has come in and been good enough. Is Dak Prescott worth $60 million? I like Dak Prescott. $60 million? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You hit on a sensitive topic.
It's an interesting topic because it's so hard to then build a roster. Give Tom Brady all the credit in the world. He was willing to take less money year after year so that the Patriots could continue to have a solid roster, offense, defense, and special teams. And he didn't have to take up all that cap. How do teams get out of that if they can't do it?
Outside of what you said. So if you get the quarterback, if you hit on him and he's good, you got what? 3-4 years before he's going to get paid, right? So you have to do it that way. Other than that, I mean, I hate to sound like an old man broken record, but you got to draft because that's where the less expensive players come in. But you're right. Once that quarterback hits that payday, it's a different ball game. Now it's decision time across the roster. And what's even more odd, to your point, is the screw ups. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is worth $275. Are you joking? Are you watching the same game? I mean,
right.
Tua? Really? You felt the need to give him, was he get 237, something like that? I mean, obviously you look at Deshaun Watson, which is a just hilarious situation from start to finish with what the Browns did with him, but that's so Cleveland Brown. You're just seeing guys that you're like, I'm not seeing mega contract, but now we're going to see it again with Dan Jones, right? Are the Colts going to do it for the second time?
Right.
Dan Jones had the Giants bent over a barrel. He had the good season in 2022. They won a playoff game. What do you do? Now what? You're going to let him walk? What are you going to get? What are you going to replace them with? I would say maybe there's something to the Sam Darnold contracts. 3 years, $100 million. That's palatable. He's an above average quarterback. That's probably what Dan Jones is going to look at, and maybe a little bit more. I think I'd rather do that than break the bank. I mean, even right now, when Jalen Hurts got his contract, it was like, oh, it's a lot of money. I was like, yeah, well, in 2 years it won't be, because this stuff just keeps going. And right now he looks like a discount.
Right,
So,
exactly. I mean, yeah, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, and I'm looking at Josh Allen, and I love Josh Allen, and he's a great quarterback. But that new contract is eating up a lot of cap space. Therefore, you have to make certain cuts. That's how you end up with a wide receiver room, because your draft isn't good enough, and you end up with a wide receiver room that is pedestrian at best.
Yeah.
Probably worse than pedestrian.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've now put the whole offense on this one player, and you're seeing the cracks in that foundation in Buffalo.
And some on defense too. I mean, they could use look, everybody could use Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons, right? But they don't have that guy. And it actually brings me to another point in talking NFL, and the Bills are a great example of this. Nobody's that good in the entire league. Who is, oh crap, we play so-and-so, there's no way we're winning this game. They don't have that. The Chiefs have lost 4 times. The Bills got choked out by the Dolphins last week. The Eagles offense, we already went through their issues. The Broncos have won 7 in a row. Did they scare you? I don't think they scare anybody. I mean, this is what the NFL wants. Honestly, this is what we all want. We love the parity. The Packers, great team, great defense. Score 7 points against Philadelphia. They're two of their losses are to the Browns and the Panthers, and you tied the Cowboys. So is that something that doesn't sound like dominance to me? And when they lost Monday night, they went from potentially the 2 seed down to the 7th seed in the conference, which is
right.
It just shows you what a mess. It's a good mess. There's a lot of very good teams. Detroit, very good team. Unbeatable? No, I don't see that. So I do get asked quite a bit, like, can the Eagles repeat? Can they? Sure. There's nothing. They could easily not. They probably won't. Statistics say they won't. But there are a lot of good teams like the Bills. Do I want to play the Bills in January? No, rather not. Right. I don't want to play the Ravens in January. They started out 1-3, and then Lamar gets hurt, and people talked about, well, when Lamar comes back, they were losing games with Lamar.
Right.
Their defense is not remotely, when it says Ravens on it, that's all it says is Ravens. Other than that, there's nothing Ravens about that defense. Right. Everybody's beatable. And that's good news for your Bills. I mean, you're going to be in it again.
Well, we might be. Who knows what's going to happen the next few weeks? The schedule gets a little tougher. Things get a little crazy. We'll see, how it all plays out. I do like, seeing teams like the Seahawks and Darnold, coming out and doing what they need to do. And they've built a nice roster in Seattle. Denver winning a lot of games by the skin of their teeth, having to rally late against bad teams, right? You've beaten the Saints, you've beaten the Giants. Yeah, not exactly world beaters.
They beat the Eagles. The Eagles blew a 14-point fourth quarter lead.
Right. And the Broncos have done well with that, being able to come back. But at some point, that magic, you go to wave that magic wand for a comeback, and it comes up empty for you, right?
But hasn't that been the story, right? Okay, so we said this about the Chiefs last year. Yeah, they're in the Super Bowl, but they won a lot of 3-point, 1-point games. We've said it about the Eagles. Even all last year, it was like, you can't live like this. Say it with the Eagles this year. It's great that you're winning these games, and every win's important, but at a certain point, these things have to get fixed. With Denver, it's something different. So their defense is excellent. Bo Nix doesn't look exactly the same this year. You mentioned issues with Buffalo, with the receivers, the pass rush, defense, whatever. Everyone's got some issues that they need to fix. And it's almost like baseball this year, right? Well, who gets into the dance and who's hot at the right time, right?
Exactly. And that's the key. Who is going to be, in your mind, this will be our last question. Wrap it up. Let's look into your crystal ball. Who do you think can get hot in this second half of the season and make that run to a Super Bowl in February now?
Well, there's obviously a few teams that can. The Ravens, I think, are just lurking. I think they can because that division is very winnable. So they could get a favorable position in the playoffs by winning the division. Um, I'm not in love with the Colts right now or the Broncos. The Bills are always going to scare me. The Chiefs don't scare me as much, other than in name only, maybe. The Eagles can, because that's exactly how they won it last year. They were really a pedestrian team that was winning games, but they didn't scare anybody until later in the season. Could the Rams do it? Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a better answer. Like, can we do this in a month or two?
We will absolutely revisit it in about a month. Absolutely.
It's good news for the NFL, because you know what? Why couldn't it be Tampa when they get Bucky Irving back? Evans is out, but Godwin is going to come back. That Egbuka can play, man. They have a very good rookie receiver there.
Absolutely.
Health is a factor too, right? People getting healthy at the right time and getting guys back. I mean, that killed Detroit last year. They were smoking all year. You lose Aiden Hutchinson, and then I think they were bringing in like 4 to 5 street free agents to start on defense toward the end. There was just no gas left in the tank. So that all depends on. I know that's not a very good answer. I mean, I can make something up if you want.
No, I think that is the key answer. You just never know these days in the NFL. The NFL is such a marathon. It's not a sprint. Right. It's a marathon. Can you get from late August to January healthy with enough guys to make that team complete and make a run for a Super Bowl, but win enough games to get into the party to make a run at a Super Bowl?
Right. So while you're struggling or you're working your things out, collect those wins, because I'm guaranteeing week 17 the Packers are going to look at that tie and be like, it's going to screw something up. That stuff all counts. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, try and get the wins while you can. Hope you can figure something out later, and then be playing your best football at the right time. But it is a marathon.
Absolutely. Micah Warren, thank you so much for taking part of your day and speaking with us, speaking to our audience. We really appreciate it. He's Micah Warren. He is an NFL writer for Heavy.com. Go there, check out his stuff, get a lot of great insight on this NFL season as it unfolds over these next few weeks.
Thank you so much for having me. This is fun.
We will be right back after a brief timeout with more of the Sports IQ.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. That's 800-215-0341.
Hey, okay, college football weekend, and we are getting closer now to the end of the season. And so, as we discussed earlier this week on Monday, 23 teams right now among the Power Four conferences and Notre Dame that are in the mix. Producer Tony, maybe the biggest game on the docket, 7:30 Eastern Time, ABC, 5th-ranked Georgia hosting 10th-ranked Texas. Georgia needs a win to stay in the mix, but they're one of those teams really kind of feel that's in pretty good shape. Texas, as we said before, they have to win this game to stay in the mix. A third loss, really, even though they've got a good resume, could be an elimination for them.
Yeah, I just don't see, with as many 1 or 2 loss teams as there might be in the SEC at the end of the season, how a 3-loss Texas team gets in. Now, they are playing their best football right now. They can't afford to do what they've done against Mississippi State and Kentucky and start slow and play to that slower pace level. They've got to pick up the pace. They've got to get out, do what they do on offense. Look, the running game hasn't been good. The offensive line hasn't been great, but they've made some changes, as David Eckhart told us earlier in the week, that they've made changes along that offensive line, and they're starting to gel. That's going to be a key point of contention with Georgia. Can they control the line of scrimmage, and give, Arch Manning time to do what he can do. We've seen what happens if Arch is under too much pressure. There just isn't enough breakaway talent on that Texas roster in the wide receiver room and the tight end room to really make things happen. It's going to, they've got to develop their tree route, their wide receiver tree route, and make it work. And if they can do that, they can stay in this game. They can. It could be a long day. And the same thing holds true for Georgia, Larry. They can't start slow. They got behind Tennessee 21-7, but managed to come back and win. They got behind in a couple other games and managed to come back and win. Look, at some point you roll the dice and it comes up 11 instead of the point. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point again, like you said, they're a team that they had a couple of breaks. That Tennessee game is a game that they could have lost. That Florida game is a game that they could have lost. So right now they could be sitting with 3 losses instead of just the 1. They're an excellent elite program. I'm not saying they're not, but they're not on the same level as they have been in recent years. These wins are not, the style points aren't there. The ease of which they're beating teams not quite there. This could be a tough matchup for them. There's no question. Another game we've been talking about is Notre Dame, a team that's on the win streak after the 2 losses to start the season, both against ranked teams. One of them, Texas A&M, they haven't lost all season. That's a good loss when you think about it. But here's a game again against Pitt. You need to get this win. Ranked right now 22nd. This is on the road out in Pittsburgh. This is a game I think Notre Dame 12.5-point favorite, but the Irish got to come through in this.
Yeah, they need to play their best football this week against Pitt. Pitt is not somebody you look past and just say, okay, we're going to throw our helmets on the field and we're going to win. That ain't the case. Pitt's defense, that front 7, as we heard earlier in the week, they can get after ball carriers. They play good run defense. So if you think that Jeremiah Love is just going to reel off 50, 60-yard runs when you need and bounce off somebody and land on their stomach and get up and keep going again like he did last week, that's probably not going to happen. This is going to have to be a game where they're going to have to be content if they can get 4 yards a carry, 5 yards a carry. Maybe he busts 1 or 2, but I don't think it's going to be a lot of big plays in the running game for Notre Dame. It might be incumbent upon C.J. Carr to make some big plays in the passing game, which means Malachi Fields has got to have a big day for Notre Dame. He is their deep threat. He is tall, rangy, fast. He might have to make a couple plays to have this go Notre Dame's way.
Yeah, C.J. Carr is such a fantastic year in his first year as a starter, as has Ty Simpson for Alabama. 21 touchdowns, just the 1 interception for the Tide. They're also on the long win streak, unbeaten in the SEC. They're at home this week against number 11 Oklahoma. And just like Texas, the Sooners in a must-win situation if they want to stay in the conversation for a playoff bid.
Yeah, I don't think a 3-loss Oklahoma team has any chance of getting into the playoff. This is absolutely a must-win for them. Alabama, could they, if they lose, can they get in with 2 losses? Absolutely. I don't see how you keep out a 2-loss Alabama team.
Right.
The schedule that they've played, the amount of competition that they've played, there's no way. But this team is hitting on all cylinders. And in a normal year, Ty Simpson would probably be the front runner for the Heisman.
Yeah.
But right now, what's happening with Mendoza in Indiana, he's probably 2nd or 3rd at best. Julian Sands right there. Jeremiah Smith is right there. Jeremiah Love is right there. There's 5 guys who are having really good years, but there's one, Mendoza, who's having an exceptional year.
Yeah. And how about that change in terms of those 3 quarterbacks you just mentioned, all 3 in the first year in their position at their school? Used to be you had to have a setup here, Tim Tebow, that kind of thing. But now that not the case now, you can walk in year 1 and get the attention and win it all in year 1 in that position. Very quickly, another team we've talked about that I'll be honest, I mea culpa. I did not see USC as possibly the 4th team in the playoff out of the Big Ten. But they have a shot, and they have a lot of work to do. They need some other teams to lose, but at least they're in the possibility. If they can get the win this week at home against Iowa, next week against Oregon, they would be in that conversation as 9-2 going into their final game.
Yeah, their passing attack is going to put some real pressure on Iowa. Mm-hmm. The Iowa defense is outstanding. They're better against the run than they are against the pass. We'll find out if USC can break those guys free and do what they need to do and put points on the board to beat Iowa. I just have real concerns about the Iowa offense, especially with them having to go out to SC and that time change and how it really kind of screws with teams from the Big Ten when they make that trip out west. I don't see an upset here. I think USC holds serve on their home turf and continues that march to, they could very well be that fourth team from the Big Ten to make it into the playoff.
Yeah, we heard earlier this season that Lincoln Riley had made some adjustments there in the way they do things with the Trojan program, and that's paid off right now. Again, 7-2, and right now trying a chance to get to 10-2 here at the end of the season. Okay, our moment of awe is up next.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
All right, time now for a moment of awe. Pretty good one. On this day back in 1993, the Miami Dolphins beat the Philadelphia Eagles 19-14. Why is that a big deal? Because that was a game that was win number 325 for Don Shula, allowing him to pass the Bears' George Halas and his record that stood for so many years, decades, of 324 wins. Shula ending his career with 328 victories. That remains the all-time league record. 32 years later, it is still standing, and right now, and nowhere close to having a chance of breaking it. We'll see if somebody can get there. And that's our moment of all. Thanks again for our guests stopping by, Eric Hansen and Micah Warren. Thanks to you as well. It's been a great week. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as well. Be safe this weekend, and we will see you on Monday here on the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.